When a billionaire bets $1 million that no one can calm his fierce dog, a homeless little girl's courage and kindness prove that love can tame even the wildest hearts. Charles Whitmore was one of the richest men in America. People knew him not only because of his huge fortune, but also because of his strange habits and his love for unusual things. He didn't like parties, didn't trust anyone easily, and preferred to live alone in his giant mansion far away from the busy city. His estate was huge, surrounded by tall gates and guarded like a fortress. He had everything anyone could dream of: private jets, expensive cars, art from around the world, and even rare animals. But there was one creature in his life that no one dared to go near: his dog Brutus. Brutus was not an ordinary dog. He was a big, strong Rottweiler with deep black fur, piercing eyes, and a growl that could send chills down anyone's spine. He had been adopted by Charles from a rescue shelter 5 years ago. At that time, Charles had thought it would be a good deed saving a dog that no one wanted. But soon, he learned that Brutus was different. The dog had been abused by his previous owners, and whatever they had done to him had left deep scars, not just on his body, but in his mind. From the first day Brutus arrived at the estate, problems started. He barked nonstop. He attacked the staff. He chewed through thick metal fences. Charles, who had all the money in the world, decided he would fix the dog with the help of the best people. He hired world-famous dog trainers. Some of them came from Europe, some from California, and some had trained dogs for the military. They tried everything: commands, treats, training tools, and even expensive therapies. But nothing worked. Brutus would not let anyone come close. If someone stepped into his area, he would go wild, barking, growling, and throwing himself against the gate of his kennel. Charles even tried therapy for animals. Special doctors visited the estate and examined Brutus. They gave him calming pills, played soft music, and tried to talk to him in gentle voices. Still, Brutus remained the same: mangry, scared, and impossible to control. He couldn't be walked like other dogs, couldn't be groomed, couldn't be touched. Over the years, Charles began to lose hope. He had spent thousands of dollars. But Brutus was still untouchable. He had to be kept inside a custom-made steel cage, which was designed by security experts. The dog was allowed to roam in a private yard, but only when everyone else was locked inside. People who worked at the estate were scared of him. Some had even quit their jobs after getting bitten or attacked. One night, Charles was attending a fancy charity event in the city. He rarely showed up at public gatherings, but this one was special. It was a fundraiser for children's hospitals. The event was full of rich and famous people: businessmen, celebrities, politicians. Everyone wanted to talk to Charles, but he mostly kept to himself. As he stood near the bar, someone asked him, "Is it true your dog is still untamed?" Gave a half smile. "He's worse than ever," he replied. Another man laughed and said, "Maybe it's time you gave up." Charles raised his glass and said with a sigh, "I swear, I'll give $1 million to anyone who can calm that beast." The room laughed. Everyone thought he was joking. A few people teased him, asking if the bet was real.
House.
Half drunk and tired, nodded. "You think I'm kidding? I'm serious. $1 million.com the dog, and the money's yours." That one line was enough. By the next morning, people were talking about it everywhere, on social media, in newspapers, on talk shows. The story was wild. A billionaire with a violent dog, offering $1 million to anyone who could calm it down. Reporters camped outside his gates. Animal trainers from all over the country sent emails and letters. Some even flew in and begged to be given a chance. But Charles had grown tired of false hope. He let a few try again, but the results were always the same. Brutus attacked, barked, and nearly broke through the steel doors. After a few weeks, the excitement died down. People lost interest. Some thought the whole thing had been a lie. Others believed that the dog was just too far gone. And Charles? He went back to his lonely life with Brutus locked in the back garden, growling day and night like a ghost haunting the mansion. But somewhere far away from this world of money and gates, in a cold alley behind a pizza shop, lived a little girl named Luna. She was only 10 years old, but had already seen more pain than most people did in a lifetime. Her clothes were torn, her shoes had holes, and her hands were always dirty. Luna lived with her sick mother in an old abandoned building. They had no home, no money, and no help. Every day Luna walked around the city, collecting cans, bottles, and leftover food to survive. But she never complained. Luna had a gift that no one else noticed. Wherever she went, animals followed her. Stray cats would curl up in her lap. Wild dogs would wag their tails at her. Birds would land near her feet and eat crumbs from her hands. People who saw her thought it was magic. But for Luna, it was just how things had always been. She didn't talk much. She just looked into the animals' eyes, and somehow, they understood her. One cold afternoon, Luna was sitting outside the pizza shop, hoping someone would drop a piece of crust. Two men walked out, laughing loudly, holding their phones. "Did you hear about that billionaire's dog?" one said. "$1 million if you can calm it?" The other replied, "The dog's a monster. Even expert trainers failed." "No one's going to win that money?" Luna's ears perked up. She turned and asked softly, "Where's the dog?" The men looked at her and laughed. "What are you going to do, little one, pet it to sleep?" But Luna didn't laugh. There was something in her eyes, calm, serious, and full of purpose. She asked again, "Where?" One of the men gave her the name of the estate and told her, "Don't bother. The gates are taller than trees. You'll never get in." But Luna had already made up her mind. She wasn't thinking about money. She didn't care about the $1 million prize. Something inside her heart had moved when she heard about the angry dog. She had seen pain in animals before. She had felt it in herself, too. Something told her that this dog wasn't evil. He was just lost, like her. That night, Luna went back to the building where her mother lay coughing under an old blanket. She told her mother what she had heard. Her mother looked worried. "It's dangerous," she said. "They won't even let you near that place." But Luna gently held her mother's hand. "I want to try," she whispered. Her mother didn't argue further. She had seen Luna do impossible things with animals. Deep down, she trusted her daughter more than anything. The next morning, before the sun rose, Luna wrapped her arms around her mother and left. She walked for miles. Through busy streets, across bridges, and finally along a quiet road that led to the gates of the Whitmore estate. Her feet were sore and she was tired, but she didn't stop. She stood at the huge iron gate and pressed the buzzer. A man's voice crackled through the speaker. "Who is it?" "I want to see the dog," Luna said. There was silence, then laughter. "Go home, kid," the voice replied. "I want to try, please." More voices joined in. People were watching her on security cameras. They zoomed in, saw a small girl, alone, wearing an old sweater and holding nothing but a tiny bag of crumbs. One of the guards called Charles and said, "Sir, you won't believe this. There's a little girl here, says she wants to calm Brutus." Charles was about to say no, but then something made him pause. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe he was bored. Or maybe he just wanted to see what would happen. "Let you," told the guard. "Let her in. Just keep her safe." And so, the giant gates slowly opened, and Luna stepped inside. As Luna walked through the giant gates of the Whitmore estate, everything around her felt like a different world. The driveway was long and smooth, like polished stone, lined with tall trees that stood like soldiers. The gardens were filled with flowers of every color, and fountains sprayed water high into the air. Expensive statues and marble benches stood silently under the sunlight. For a moment, Luna felt like she was dreaming. She had never seen such a place. But she didn't come to admire the beauty. She had come for Brutus. Two security guards in dark uniforms met her halfway down the driveway. One of them looked puzzled, the other amused. They had seen people try strange things before, but never a girl like her. Her clothes were too big and torn, her shoes barely held together with string, and her face, though tired, carried a strange calmness in her eyes. "Are you sure about this?" one of the guards asked, half serious, half smiling. Luna nodded without a word. They led her through the wide garden to the back of the estate. Far away from the main building, the grass there was trimmed like a perfect carpet, and everything looked peaceful until they reached a large metal enclosure. It was like a cage, but stronger than any zoo or animal shelter she had ever seen. Thick steel bars, double locks, motion sensors, and cameras pointed at every corner. In the center of the enclosure stood Brutus. The moment Luna got near, the giant Rottweiler jumped to his feet. His deep growl echoed through the air. His teeth showed. His eyes were wild. He barked so loudly that the birds in the trees flew away in fear. Luna didn't flinch. She simply stood still and looked at him. Brutus barked again, harder this time, throwing himself against the bars of the gate. One of the guards quickly stepped forward, ready to pull Luna back, but she raised her hand and whispered, "It's okay." The billionaire himself, Charles Whitmore, was watching the scene from a glass balcony high above. He had a cup of coffee in his hand and a tired look on his face. He wasn't expecting anything special. In fact, he believed the girl would run away the moment Brutus barked. Everyone else had. Some grown men had screamed. Even trained professionals had backed away. But Luna stood there, not moving, not afraid. She slowly sat down on the grass a few feet away from the cage. The guards looked at each other, confused. She wasn't doing anything. She didn't bring food, toys, or treats. She didn't speak loudly or try to give commands. Just sat cross-legged, eyes fixed on Brutus, as if she was waiting for him to say something. Minutes passed. Brutus continued barking, his body shaking with rage. He paced back and forth inside the cage like a prisoner in chains. But Luna stayed completely still. After a while, she closed her eyes and began to hum a soft, slow tune. It was an old lullaby, one her mother used to sing to her when they lived in a real home. Her voice was gentle and low, almost like the wind whispering through leaves. At first, Brutus didn't react, but then something strange happened. His growls became softer, dumbed his movements slower. He stopped throwing himself against the bars and instead stood at the edge of the cage, watching Luna closely. The guards noticed it too. One of them whispered, "Is he calming down?" Charles, still watching from the balcony, leaned forward. Surprised, Brutus was now sitting. He wasn't barking. He wasn't growling. He was just staring at the little girl as she hummed a tune from another life. Luna opened her eyes and gave him a small smile, not forced, not nervous, but a quiet smile that held something rare, understanding. She didn't need to say it out loud, but if she had, her words would have been simple. "I know how it feels. I've been there too." The afternoon sun moved across the sky, but Luna stayed in the same place for hours. When it got cooler, one of the guards brought her a blanket. She thanked him politely and continued to sit, her eyes never leaving Brutus. By evening, Brutus had stopped pacing. He lay down, resting his massive head between his front paws. He kept his eyes on Luna, but there was no fire in them now, only curiosity. Something inside him was changing. It wasn't magic. It wasn't training. It was something more honest. Trust. The guards, unsure of what they were witnessing, called Charles again. This time he came down himself. For the first time in years, he stood just a few feet from Brutus's enclosure without the dog going mad. Charles looked at Luna, then at the dog, and said quietly, "How are you doing this?" Luna looked up at him and simply said, "I'm not doing anything. I'm just being with him." Charles didn't know how to reply. He had spent years trying to fix Brutus. He had used money, science, training, and experts, but none of it had worked. Now this little girl who had nothing was sitting calmly next to the most feared dog in the city. And the dog was calm too. He asked Luna if she wanted anything. Food, water, a place to sleep. She shook her head and said, "I'll sleep here. He might need me." That night, they gave her a soft sleeping bag and let her rest under the stars, right next to Brutus's cage. No one slept well in the mansion. Everyone was watching the cameras, expecting Brutus to snap. But he didn't. He watched her too. His ears slightly tilted, his eyes softer than ever before. In the early morning, Luna woke up and sat up slowly. Brutus stood and walked toward the bars again. This time he didn't bark. He just sat down, only a foot away from her. Luna reached into her pocket and pulled out a few crumbs from a biscuit she had saved from the pizza shop. She gently placed them near the bars. Brutus sniffed, then slowly licked them up. It was the first time he had taken food from anyone's hand in years. The days passed like that. Luna stayed at the estate. She didn't try to rush anything. She didn't ask Brutus to do tricks. She didn't even try to touch him. She just came every day, sat, hummed, and waited. By the third day, Brutus was lying down near the gate when she arrived. By the fourth, he wagged his tail when he saw her. On the fifth day, something unbelievable happened. Luna stretched her hand toward the bars. Brutus walked over and sniffed it. Then, very gently, pressed his head against her fingers. The guard who saw it dropped his coffee. Did he just let her touch him? He gasped. Charles came running. He stood silently as Luna gently scratched behind Brutus's ear through the bars. The dog leaned into it, eyes half closed. There was no growl, no bark. Just peace. That evening, Charles invited Luna to dinner in the mansion. She came inside for the first time. The dining hall was bigger than any place she had ever lived. Giant paintings hung on the walls. A chandelier sparkled like stars above the long table. She sat quietly, a little shy, while chefs brought out plates of food she couldn't even name. Charles didn't know what to say. He was a man used to dealing with numbers, contracts, and machines, not children. But finally, he asked the question that had been haunting him. Why do you think Brutus trusts you? Luna looked up at him and said, Because I don't want anything from him. I don't want to change him. I just know he's hurting like me. Charles swallowed hard. Her words hit him deeper than he expected. He had always tried to fix Brutus. But Luna had simply offered kindness. She didn't push. She didn't command. She just shared her quiet heart, and the dog had responded. He asked her where she came from. She told him everything about her mother, their life in the abandoned building, how they survived day to day. She didn't cry. She wasn't looking for pity. She told it like it was a story she had already accepted. Charles sat back in his chair, stunned. This little girl had walked through pain and darkness and still carried light. He realized she wasn't just helping Brutus. She was reminding him of something he had forgotten: empathy. The next morning, Charles made a decision. He called his team and told them, whatever she needs, give it. Her mother, their care, a place to stay, everything. The girl who came looking for a dog now had the attention of a billionaire. But for Luna, the only thing that mattered was Brutus. And tomorrow, she would finally ask to walk into his cage. The morning air was cool and fresh, and a soft mist covered the grass around the mansion. Birds were singing in the trees, but everyone at the Whitmore estate was silent, watching the camera screens nervously. Something was going to happen today. Something no one believed was possible. Luna, the little girl who had already done what no one else could, had asked to enter Brutus's cage. Charles Whitmore had stayed awake all night thinking about it. His mind was filled with questions. What if the dog attacked her? What if something went wrong? But when he looked at the footage from the past few days, when he saw how Brutus reacted to her presence, to her voice, to her touch through the cage, something inside him whispered, she can do this. When Luna arrived that morning, she looked the same as always, calm, quiet, and kind. Her clothes were still old, her shoes still broken, but her eyes had something special in them: courage. She carried a small cloth bag in her hand. Inside it were a few pieces of bread and some tiny bones she had picked up on her way. Nothing fancy, but enough to share with a friend. The guards looked at her with concern. One of them said gently, You don't have to do this, Luna. You've already done more than anyone else could. But she shook her head and smiled softly. I'm not afraid. He won't hurt me. She walked slowly toward the cage where Brutus was already standing at the gate. He didn't bark. He didn't growl. His tail wagged slightly, and his eyes followed her every step. It was like he had been waiting for her all night. Charles came down from the mansion, standing quietly a few meters away. He didn't say anything. He just nodded at the guard, giving silent permission. The lock on the cage door clicked. The air felt heavy. Everyone held their breath as the door slowly opened. For a moment, nothing moved. Then Luna took a gentle step. Inside, Brutus didn't charge. He didn't snap. Just watched her, curious and calm. She took another step, then another, until she was right in front of him. She knelt down slowly and held out her hand. Brutus came closer and sniffed her fingers, then licked them. Luna smiled and took a piece of bread from her bag. She placed it gently on the ground. Brutus sniffed it again and ate it from her hand. The people watching the cameras were stunned. The guard near Charles whispered, "I can't believe it."
Ow.
Luna sat down in the grass inside the cage. Brutus sat beside her. She began to hum again, the same soft lullaby she had been singing since the first day. Brutus slowly lowered his head onto her lap. Her small hand stroked his ears, and his eyes closed like he was finally at peace. Tears filled Charles's eyes. He had never cried in front of anyone, not even when his father died. But now, watching a little girl with nothing but a kind heart, calm the most violent creature he had ever known, he felt something break inside him. It's not from pain, but from something else. Hope. The cage door stayed open for a long time. Luna didn't try to walk him or give him any commands. She just stayed with him, quiet and loving. For Brutus, that was enough. For the next few days, everything changed at the estate. Brutus, who once had to be locked up and guarded, was now walking around freely, always next to Luna. Wherever she went, he followed. The staff couldn't believe their eyes. Brutus wasn't barking, wasn't growling, wasn't attacking. It was like a different dog. But Luna knew the truth. Brutus wasn't different. He'd always been like this inside. All he needed was someone to understand him. Luna would visit him early every morning and stay until the sun went down. Sometimes she played with him using a stick or a ball she found nearby. Sometimes she just sat in silence, gently scratching his fur while he rested beside her. Charles began to spend more time watching them. He invited Luna to have meals with him every day. He asked about her mother, about her life, about what she wanted to do when she grew up. Luna didn't ask for toys or new clothes. She didn't ask to live in the mansion. She only said, "I just want my mother to be okay. I want her to rest and not be sick anymore." Charles was silent for a moment, then promised, "I'll make sure she gets the best care. You don't have to worry anymore." That evening, Charles sent a private doctor to the old abandoned building where Luna's mother was still living. The doctor examined her and arranged for her to be taken to a hospital. She was weak, but her condition could be treated. The next day, Charles brought Luna the news. "Your mother is getting better. She's safe." Luna smiled, and for the first time, she allowed herself to cry. They were not sad tears. They were tears of relief. Soon, Charles made another decision. He gave Luna and her mother a small house on the estate grounds. It was beautiful but simpler, cozy little cottage near the trees, with windows that let in the sunlight and a porch where Brutus could rest beside Luna. He even gave her new clothes, books and toys, though she still liked to wear her old sweater sometimes. News of what happened spread quickly. The media picked up the story again, but this time it wasn't just about the bet. It was about the little girl who had changed the heart of a dangerous dog and the heart of a billionaire. Journalists, animal lovers, even psychologists wanted to meet Luna. But she didn't care about the fame. She didn't care about the $1,000,000 either. She never even asked Charles about it. One evening, while sitting on the porch watching Brutus chase butterflies in the grass, Charles came to her with a check in his hand. "You won the bet," he said. "This belongs to you." Luna looked at the check, then at Charles. "I don't need money," she said softly. "You've already helped my mom, that's enough," Charles insisted. "It's yours. But if you don't want it, we can use it to help others, kids like you and dogs like Brutus." Luna thought for a moment, then nodded. "Let's help the ones no one listens to." That was the beginning of something even bigger. Charles and Luna started a foundation together. They called it the Silent Hearts. It helped children from broken homes and rescued animals that had been abused or abandoned. They opened shelters, homes, training centers where kindness, not punishment, was used to heal. Brutus became the face of the foundation. The dog once known for fear and rage was now famous for love and loyalty. He would sit beside Luna. During public events, gentle as ever, children who had been scared of dogs would pet him, and he would lick their hands gently as if saying, "I understand. You're safe now." Luna was offered many things, interviews, awards, even movie deals. But she stayed grounded. She didn't want attention. She just wanted to do more good. Charles changed too. The man who once locked himself inside his lonely mansion was now spending his time building homes, visiting orphanages, and laughing like he hadn't in years. People said it was Luna who changed him. But he always corrected them, saying, "She didn't change me. She reminded me of who I was before I got lost." As time passed, Luna and Brutus became known all over the country. But for them, life was still simple. Mornings started with long walks through the trees. Afternoons were for playing in the garden. Nights were spent under the stars, humming lullabies that healed hearts. The world saw a miracle a little. Girl who calmed a monster. But the truth was far more beautiful. There was never a monster. There was only a wounded soul waiting for someone to listen, and Luna had listened. The world had changed for Luna. From a cold, broken room in an abandoned building to a warm, quiet cottage surrounded by trees. Everything was different. But even with her new home, clean clothes, soft bed, and hot food, Luna stayed the same. She was still gentle, still quiet, still kind. And she still spent every day with Brutus. Brutus had become like a shadow to her. Wherever she went, he followed. In the morning, they walked through the woods together. At lunch, they shared their meals on the porch. And at night, they sat under the stars like old friends who didn't need to talk to understand each other. Brutus was no longer feared. He was loved. And he had only one person to thank for that, Luna. Charles Whitmore watched this change with deep amazement. He had built tall buildings, bought companies, and signed deals worth billions. But nothing he had done had ever brought him the peace that came from watching Luna and Brutus together. Sometimes he sat alone in his office, just replaying security. Footage of them walking, playing, resting made him feel like the world still had a heart. One afternoon, Charles called Luna to his study. She came in quietly, wearing her favorite blue sweater, the one with the stitched patch on the sleeve that her mother had repaired with thread. Brutus came in too, sat down next to her, and rested his head on her foot. Charles smiled. "Luna, I want to talk to you about something." She looked up at him with her calm eyes. "I've been thinking about starting a school, not just a regular school. A place for children like you children who've been forgotten, ignored, or lost. A place where they can learn, eat, rest, and feel safe. I want you to help me." Luna didn't answer right away. She sat still, thinking. Finally, she said softly, "Only if Brutus can help too." Charles chuckled. "Of course. In fact, he'll be the heart of it." That's how the idea for the Heart School was born. Within weeks, plans were made. Architects, builders, and teachers were brought in. But this time, Charles wasn't giving orders from behind a desk. He visited the construction site every day, walking beside Luna and Brutus. He listened to her. "Ideas," she said. "Children should have open spaces to play. There should be soft lights, warm blankets, and rooms where no one would yell." She wanted dogs in every classroom, not just Brutus, but other rescued dogs too. "Because," she said, "sometimes a dog understands you more than a person." Construction moved quickly. In just a few months, the building was ready. It wasn't fancy like Charles's mansion. It was simple, beautiful, and full of light. There were trees in the middle of the playground. There were reading corners with pillows and blankets. There was a garden where children could plant flowers. In every hallway, there were photos of Luna and Brutus, her hand resting on his head, both of them smiling. The first day the school opened, Luna stood at the gate with Brutus beside her. Children came slowly, holding their parents' hands or carrying nothing but a small bag. Some were scared, some were quiet. Some didn't know how to smile. But when they saw Brutus wagging his tail gently and Luna giving them a soft nod, something melted in them. They felt safe. Luna wasn't just the girl who calmed the dangerous dog anymore. She had become a quiet leader, a friend, a sister to everyone who entered that school. She didn't act like she was above anyone. She sat with the shy kids during lunch. She read stories to the little ones who missed their parents. She played in the dirt with the ones who had never seen a garden. One boy named Eli was especially quiet. He had been found living in a car with his older sister, didn't speak for weeks. But one day, Luna gave him a small paintbrush and asked if he wanted to help her paint a wall. He didn't answer, but he took the brush. They painted together. In silence, Brutus lay beside them, watching. By the end of the day, Eli said his first word, blue. Another girl named Marla used to scream in her sleep every night. But after spending a week with Luna and Brutus, sleeping beside Brutus on a warm blanket, the nightmares stopped. She started drawing pictures of dogs and stars and smiling suns. Word spread fast. The Hart School became known across the country. People sent letters, donations, volunteers, but Luna remained the same. She never gave long speeches. She never asked for attention. She only wanted the children to feel loved, the way she had finally felt when Brutus first laid his head on her lap. One evening, after the children had gone home, Luna sat on the porch with Charles. Brutus was asleep at her feet, his chest rising and falling like the tide. Charles looked at her. "You've done something no one else could do. You've taken pain and turned it into light." Luna looked up at the stars and whispered, "Maybe because I know how heavy pain feels. I didn't want anyone else to carry it alone." Charles's voice broke. "You're only a child, Luna, but you've taught me more about life than anyone ever has." They sat in silence for a while. But life wasn't done testing Luna. One night, while she and her mother were sleeping, Brutus stood up suddenly and began growling. It wasn't loud, but it was serious. Luna woke up and listened. There was a smell of smoke. Her mother coughed in the other room. Luna rushed outside. One of the staff storage buildings near the edge of the property was on fire. Brutus barked, loud and sharp. The staff and guards rushed to the spot. Someone had thrown something flammable over the fence. Maybe a protester. Maybe someone angry at Charles for refusing a business deal. No one knew. The fire was big. Flames were rising fast. But Luna didn't panic. She helped her mother out of the cottage and guided the younger children away. Brutus ran back and forth, barking to alert everyone. Charles arrived minutes later. His heart sank when he saw the flames, but what he saw next made him freeze. Luna had tied a wet cloth over her mouth and was running into the storage building. "Luna," he shouted, "no." But she was already inside. She had remembered something. There was a dog, a small, limping rescue named Toby, who had been staying there in recovery. He couldn't move fast. If no one got him, he would die in the fire. Everyone told her not to go, but Luna didn't listen. Just like she had walked into Brutus's cage without fear, she ran into the fire without hesitation. The smoke was thick, the heat unbearable. She crawled through the floor, calling softly, "Toby." A small whimper came from the corner. She followed the sound, found the little dog under a table, coughing and shaking. She picked him up, wrapped him in her jacket, and began crawling back. Outside, everyone waited. Even Brutus barked and scratched at the wall, desperate to go in. Suddenly, the door burst open. Luna came stumbling out, coughing hard, holding Toby in her arms. Her sweater was burned on one side. Her hair was covered in ash. Charles ran to her and held her tightly. "You could have died," she coughed and whispered. He was scared, like Brutus used to be. The fire was put out. The damage was controlled. But the news of Luna's bravery spread like fire itself. That night, people across the city lit candles in her name. Strangers came to offer help. Even government officials visited the school to thank her. But Luna didn't want any attention. She only asked for one thing, that the schools stay open. Forever, no matter what, Charles promised. "As long as I live, this place will stand. And when I'm gone, the world will remember that a little girl with nothing gave everything." Luna looked at Brutus, then back at the stars. She whispered, "We saved each other." And Brutus, as if understanding every word, wagged his tail, and laid his head once again on her lap. Time moved forward quietly at the Heart School. The days were filled with laughter, learning, and new friendships. Children who once had no place to belong now found a home where they could feel safe and loved. Luna and Brutus continued their gentle work, helping every child find a little light inside their own hearts. Charles Whitmore, the billionaire who had once been cold and distant, was now a changed man. The money and power no longer defined him. Instead, he spent his days supporting Luna's vision, opening doors for more children and animals to be rescued and cared for. The foundation they started grew bigger and stronger with every passing day. Luna's mother had recovered well, thanks to the care Charles had arranged. She was now living with Luna in the cottage near the school, helping care for the children and animals. The family that once was broken was slowly healing. One afternoon, a large crowd gathered outside the school gates. People from the city, officials, volunteers, families came to celebrate a very special event: the official opening of a new wing dedicated to children with special needs. This wing was designed with Luna's ideas in mind: soft colors, quiet rooms, friendly animals, and spaces where children could be themselves without fear. Luna stood at the entrance with Brutus by her side, her heart full. She looked around at the smiling faces, at the happy children playing and learning, and she felt a deep peace she had never known before. She remembered the cold nights, the hunger, the fear. But now, all that seemed like a distant memory. After the ceremony, Charles took Luna aside. "You've done something incredible," he said quietly. "Yes. Shown the world that kindness can change even the hardest hearts." Luna smiled shyly. "It wasn't just me. Brutus helped. And all." The children helped each other. Charles nodded. "That's true. And I want to make sure this place lasts long after we're gone. I'm setting up a trust fund to support the Heart School forever." Luna's eyes sparkled. "Thank you." But Luna never wanted the story to be about her or the money. She wanted the story to be about hope, about believing that no matter how broken things seem, there is always a way to heal. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky orange and pink, Luna sat on the porch with Brutus. They watched the children playing in the distance, their laughter like music on the breeze. Suddenly, Luna reached into her bag and pulled out a small notebook. It was worn and old, the pages filled with her handwriting and drawings. She had been writing her story, a story of pain, love, and hope. She wanted to share it with the world, to show others that even when everything feels lost, kindness and courage can bring light back. Charles read her writing one afternoon. He was deeply moved. "This is more powerful than any business plan I've ever seen," he told her. "We should publish it. Let the world hear your voice." Luna agreed. They worked together to turn her story into a book. It became a bestseller, inspiring millions around the world. People wrote letters, sent gifts, and shared their own stories of struggle and hope. Luna's story became a beacon for those who felt forgotten. But even with all the success, Luna stayed humble. She still woke up early, fed Brutus, helped the children, and spent quiet moments with her mother. She knew that true happiness was in the small things, the gentle touch, the kind word, the quiet understanding. Years passed. Heart School continued to grow, helping more children and animals every day. Luna became a young woman, wise beyond her years but still carrying the same gentle spirit that had calmed Brutus so long ago. One day, a reporter asked Luna, "What do you want most for the future?" She thought for a moment and replied, "I want a world where no one feels alone, where every child knows they are loved, where kindness is the strongest power of all." Brutus, now older, but still full of love, sat beside her, his eyes shining with trust and loyalty. Charles, watching from the crowd, smiled and whispered, "She changed the world." And in that moment, it was clear that the bet was never about money. It was about hearts, about healing, hope, and the quiet power of love.